They come in, the cartridges themselves will be delivered with a
I finally got to visit with the Bernalillo County Clerk and the Secretary of State's office, so I made each of them walk through step by step what happens to our votes once we cast them. There were some slight discrepancies in their stories, and some places along the way where data cards might not be totally secure. But overall, I came away thinking they'd been working pretty hard to have double checks and to keep the data intact.
It links you to the unofficial results, which are these duplicate files that have been emailed to AES.
But they still couldn't satisfactorily explain all the anomalies of the last presidential election.
Literally, to my understanding, was a data entry error, and it just wasn't caught.
But if what they said was true, and the people in the system are doing their jobs, then the only obvious way to alter the vote is to have the same software in control of the whole process, so that the results are consistently wrong on the printouts, on the data files, and the cards, and the electronic signature rosters. ES&S sells Unity software that controls everything from start to finish. But it's not clear whether AES, the private contractor that orchestrates our state elections, uses integrated software like this. Since I haven't been able to get their president, Terry Rainey, to talk to me, I stopped into their headquarters in Rio Rancho to try to talk to one of their computer programmers. But the woman at the front desk said no one in the company could talk to the press except the 3 top executives. That might help explain the reception I got from their subcontractor, Auburn Seawolf, which houses and runs the server that holds our election results.
I'm sorry, we have no comment.
But there is more to know about Seawolf. For starters, they may not even be providing services legally, because there doesn't appear to be any record of a written agreement to hire a subcontractor as required under AES's contract with the state. Attorney Maya West discovered this fact recently when she went poking around to find out more about who runs our elections. She's an attorney, and she just started searching for her own curiosity about who was handling the election, and then...
She's an attorney from Taos.
Right, you know about this.
She called me, yes.
Okay, yeah.
And we've gone through the AES contract, and it's her opinion that the involvement of Auburn Seawolf isn't appropriately done in writing. That is her opinion. And so she's entitled to her opinion like anyone else. I do know that she is a land use attorney, and that this side of the law is slightly different from what she's used to dealing with. But that's
I'm not sure there's much room for personal opinion in contract law, so we'll see how that part of the story is yet to play out. But there are other things to think about concerning Seawolf, like CEO Sandra Ryan's resume.
They have, top secret security clearance with the Department of Energy and the Department of Defense. Formerly worked for SAIC, which is, a company that was the think tank behind the Iraq War. There's a lot of military defense ties to some of these private companies, including Seawolf. So there's right there a potential for conflict of interest, for them to be the ones handling our data on election night, when there's a lot at stake for the military in the outcome of elections.
And I also have to wonder, after my visit to the Secretary of State, are there some things that these folks will not let themselves even imagine? Like, what if you truly believed that if an election went a certain way, everything you cared about, everything you held sacred, was going to be destroyed? And what if you were in a position to change the outcome of that election? How far would you go? ES&S and Diebold are the 2 biggest voting machine companies, together accounting for about 80% of the vote. The companies are owned by 2 brothers with Republican and Christian Reconstructionist affiliations. Christian Reconstructionists want biblical law to replace the U.S. Constitution, and that leaves little room for democracy.
I do think that we need to move away from the privatization of election services, not only here in New Mexico, but nationally. I think that AES is a very reputable company that does a very good job, but I do think that we need to start putting more of the actual election process, particularly the programming of the cards, could be in the hands of the county clerks.
Voting machines aren't just run by software. There's also firmware that is programmed at the manufacturers, such as ES&S, which could account for glitches like these, caught in New Mexico and West Virginia, where straight party voting would have nullified or switched votes.
There's a wonderful group, a coalition of election integrity advocates, who put together an effort called Standing for Voters, Take the Pledge. And each candidate who's running this year has been asked to take the pledge. And the pledge is simply, I won't concede before all the votes are counted. And that if there are anomalies, I'll investigate. I'll pursue that. So of all of the presidential candidates who are running right now in the November 2008 election, only 2 have signed the pledge. All of them have been asked, and only 2 have signed the pledge. And those 2 are Ralph Nader and Cynthia McKinney. Now, if Obama's folks are on it, and they think they've got all their bases covered and that they're going to pursue legal action if there's a problem, then sign the pledge. There's nothing to it. It's just like you're making a commitment to election integrity. It's pretty simple.